Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now in this video, I want us to learn about remote networks and how we can configure two routers to be able to send traffic to each other. Now currently PRB Investments has an office in Ottawa and we have a small infrastructure. Now PRB Investments recently opened up a new office in Toronto, and here we have another OpenSense router and another domain controller called TOR-DC-01, and we would like to add our TOR-DC-01 router to our PRB Investments.local domain. So this is what we will be doing in this video. Now, for the first section of this video, I will be going through how to create a new OpenSense router called OpenSense-TOR. Now, in VMware Workstation, I went into the network editor and I added a new network adapter. And this network adapter is a host-only adapter and it's assigned to VMnet 12. And the subnet for this adapter is 10.100.100.0, and that is on a 255.255.255.0 subnet. Now, I've created my new OpenSense router with the following specs. The name is OpenSense-TOR. It has 2 GB of RAM. It has a 20 GB hard drive space. It has 2 network adapters. One network adapter is on the bridge network, and in OpenSense, this is assigned to EM1, and it's a WAN interface, and it has DHCP configured to get an IP address. And the second adapter is on the VMnet 12 network. This is the EM0 adapter in OpenSense. It's a LAN interface, and the IP address is 10.100.100.254. And my Windows server is created with 4 GB of RAM. It has 60 GB hard drive space, and it has one network adapter that is on the VMnet 12 network with the IP address 10.100.100.20. And also for the Windows server, I just went through like the basic setup. I changed the time zone, I configured the remote settings, and I changed the computer name, but that's basically all that I did. Now, if you already know how to create these systems and how to configure them, you can skip ahead to when I do my actual configurations and go from there. But if you're new or if you need a refresh, you can always skim through the video to see how I do it. And you can also see like if you made any mistakes along the way. Now, with that being said, let's dive in. First, in VMware Workstation, we'll click on File, then New Virtual Machine. We'll click Next on the Welcome page. We'll select Other for the guest operating system, then FreeBSD 14, and make sure it's the 64-bit version. We'll name the virtual machine OpenSense-TOR. Now, TOR is just short for Toronto. If you want to pick another city, that's fine. And then I will choose a location to store my virtual machine. After I'm done that, I will click on Next. I'll just leave the size to be 20 GB, and then I will select the option to store virtual disk as a single file. I will click on Next. Then I will click on Customize Hardware. From here, I will increase the memory to be 2 GB. I'll increase the processor to be 2 cores. For the ISO image, I will select my OpenSense ISO file. And next for the networking. Now, because this will be a separate router, we want to have a different network to use. So what I will do is I will close the custom hardware window. Then in VMware, I will click on Edit, and then we'll go to our virtual network editor. I will click on Change Settings, and here I will add a new network. Now, since VMnet 10 and 11 is already in use, we'll select VMnet 12 for the next network. And from here, it will be a host-only connection. We'll uncheck the option to use a local DHCP service to distribute IP address to our virtual machines. And the subnet IP address will be 10.100.100.0, with the subnet mask being 255.255.255.0. And once we're done with that, we'll save our changes and exit. Now that we've configured our new network adapter, we will need to edit the settings of our OpenSense-TOR device. So what I'll do is I will click on Edit Virtual Machine Settings. And then the current network adapter that is assigned to VMnet 10, we will change that to be VMnet 12, the network that we just created. Then we'll add another network adapter. and we'll set that to be bridged. Then we'll click on OK, and we'll power on the new virtual machine. Now, if you don't remember, to install OpenSense, you have to type the username installer, and the password is OpenSense. And from here, I will quickly go through the installation selection, and then I will begin the installation. And once the installation is done, I will reboot, but I will not change the default password. And when it's back at the logon screen, we will sign in with the root as the username and OpenSense as the password. Now, we do need to configure our LAN interface. So at the options, I will enter option number 2, and that will set an interface IP address. And then we'll enter 1 to select our LAN interface. We'll say no to configure the IP address through DHCP. Then for the new LAN IPv4 address, we'll enter 10.100.100.254. And for the subnet mask, we will choose 24, which is 255.255.255.0. And then for the remaining questions, I will just press enter to select the default option, which is no. So our OpenSense router is good to go. Next, what I want to do is create a new Windows Server 2022 machine. So what we'll do is we'll just go through the same process. So in VMware Workstation, we'll click on File, then New Virtual Machine, and then we'll click on Next on the welcome page. And then I will select to install an operating system later. Then we'll click on Next for the guest operating system, and I will select Windows Server 2022. Click Next. For the virtual machine name, it will be TOR-DC-01. Then I will select a location for my virtual machine. Then click Next, and we'll leave the storage to be 60 gigabytes, and then I will select the option to store this virtual disk as a single file. Click Next. Then I will click on Customize Hardware. I will bump the RAM up to be 4 gigabytes. Then I will leave the processor to be 2 cores. For the DVD, I will select my Windows Server 2022 ISO file. For the network adapter, I will change it from NAT to custom. Then I will select VMnet 12. Then I will click on Close, and then Finish. And once we're done with that, then I will click on Power on this virtual machine. Then I will press my spacebar key to boot from the media. And from here, I will quickly go through the installation process. And once it is done, I will quickly reboot and wait for it to come back online. Now that it's back online, I will create an administrator password. Then I'll log in. And here I will do a few things to get it set up. First, I will set the time zone. So I'm in Eastern Standard Time, so I will set that. Then I will set the IP address to be 10.100.100.20 with 255.255.255.0 as the subnet mask, and 10.100.100.254 as the default gateway. And for now, I will use 1.1.1.1 for the DNS server, but I will change this later in the video. Then I will allow remote connections to this server. And lastly, we'll change the computer name to be tor-dc-01. Now, I won't reboot yet. First, what I will do is install VMware Tools. So I'll quickly run through the installation. And once VMware Tools has been successfully installed, I will reboot. And once the server is back online, I will quickly log in with the admin credentials. Now, our goal for this scenario is to connect this machine that is on a different network to the prbinvestments.local domain. So basically what we want to do is on the local server, I could click on Workgroup, and here I can add this server to the prbinvestments.local domain. Now before I do that, I will need to verify that I'm connected to that network, so let's do that. So what I'll do is I will open up the command prompt, and from here I will ping 10.100.100.254, which is the LAN IP address of the OpenSense TOR router. Now, we can see that this works, which makes sense because it is directly connected to it. Now, if I try to ping 172.20.20.254, I will not get a reply. And it's the same thing if I try to ping DC-01. Now, this makes sense because if we look at this network diagram, OpenSense-VM and OpenSense-TOR are not connected in any way. So what we need to do is add a connection between OpenSense VM and OpenSense TOR. So what we'll do is back in VMware Workstation, we'll go back to our network editor. And here we'll add a new network. So we'll add another host-only adapter. We'll place it on VMnet 19. And the subnet IP address will be 10.1.1.0. And we'll leave the subnet mask to be 255.255.255.0. And then we'll just save our changes and exit. Next, we'll go into OpenSense-VM settings, and we'll add a new network adapter. We'll assign it to VMnet 19. And we can see here that VMware is adding this device. And we can see in the OpenSense console that EM3 has now been added. So what I will do is quickly reboot my OpenSense VM. And once it is back online, we'll log in with our root username. Now, in OpenSense, when you add a new interface, you need to assign it for it to be active. So we will do that right now. I will press number 1 to assign my interfaces. So we will do EM1 for WAN, EM0 for LAN. EM2 was our other network that we use for our DHCP relay testing. And EM3 will be used for our point-to-point connection to OpenSense-TOR. So I will assign those now. And once that is done, I will assign an IP address to EM3. So we'll press option 2 to set interface IP address, and then we'll choose option 3 to assign an IP address to EM3. I will assign the IP address of 10.10.10.1 and the subnet. Now this time I will do something a bit different. Instead of using the full /24 subnet, I will use a /30. Now, if you don't know, a /30 is 255.255.255.252, and this will give us 2 available IP addresses that we can use, which is perfect for this scenario because we really only need 2 IP addresses for this simple point-to-point connection. And there is no reason to use a subnet like a /24 because this will give us 254 unique IP addresses, which is just a waste of IP addresses. However, if you still want to use a /24, you can still do it. It will still work. And after I'm done with that, I will just press enter to proceed with the remaining options. Then OpenSense will just apply the configuration that we've just made, and we can see our new interface is now active. Next, what I will do is I will go over to OpenSense-TOR, and same thing, I will add a new network adapter. We'll assign the adapter to the VMnet 19 network. Then I will reboot OpenSense-TOR. And once it is back up, we'll do the same thing. We'll enable the interface. So we'll enter number 1. We'll assign the interfaces. So we'll enter EM1 for WAN, EM0 for LAN, and EM2 for UP1. And then I will set an IP address. So that is option 2 to set the IP address. And we'll select option 2 to assign the IP address to the UP1 interface. And the IP address here will be 10.1.1.2 with a /30 subnet mask. And then I will just press enter to just skip the remaining questions. And with that done, let's test our connection. So from OpenSense-TOR, I will type number 7 to ping a host, and first I will enter the IP address of 10.1.1.2. And indeed, we do get a reply, which means that our network adapter is active and it is working. Next, I will try to ping 10.1.1.1, which is the IP address of the connection on the other OpenSense-VM router. But you can see that I don't really get a reply. And if I head over to the OpenSense-VM and I try to ping OpenSense-TOR, we'll see that it doesn't work from this side either. And yes, this is unexpected behavior because remember, OpenSense is a firewall in addition to a router, which means it does not allow just any connection to send networking data to it. So we need to create a firewall rule to allow this. So what I'll do is I'll log back into DC01. Then I will open up a web browser, and here I will go to the IP address 172.20.20.254, and we will log in to our OpenSense router portal. Then under interfaces, I will click on up2, and we see that indeed this is enabled, and I can scroll down and I can see that the IP address is assigned. Then over on firewall, I will click on rules, and then I will click on up2, and we can see we don't have any rules enabled. Now, if I click on LAN, you can see we have 2 rules, one for IPv4 and one for IPv6. Now, these rules basically forward all traffic that it receives from the LAN interface. For the LAN network, these rules were automatically added. I did not create them. Then over on the UP1 interface, we have a single IPv4 rule that forwards all traffic that it receives. So we want to do the same thing for the UP2 interface as well. So we'll click on UP2. Then we'll click on add. And I'm just going to accept all of the defaults that we have here. But if you're doing this in a production environment, I would advise you to carefully select what you're configuring. You can change the direction, the IP version, the protocol, as well as the source and the destination. Now, if you're not sure, start with the most restrictive and then go from there. But we'll scroll down and we'll just click save and then we'll click on apply. Then we want to do the same thing for our OpenSense-TOR router. So I'll head over to TOR-DC-01, and here we'll open up our web browser and we'll navigate to https://10.100.100.254. And because this is my first time logged into the web portal for this OpenSense router, I have to go through the setup wizard. So I will quickly do that. And once I am done, same thing, I will go to the interfaces, then up one, and just make sure that it is enabled and it does have an IP address assigned, which it does. And everything is good here. So next we'll go to the rules, then up one, and here I will add a firewall rule. Same as before, I will just accept the default, then we'll hit save and then apply changes. Now, if I head over to OpenSense-VM and I will try a few pings here, we'll see that I can indeed ping 10.1.1.1, which is its own interface. But if I try to ping 10.1.1.2, we'll see that this fails. And if I head over to OpenSense-TOR and I try to ping itself, it does work. But if I try to ping 10.1.1.1, that also fails. Now, technically, this should work as long as your devices are in the same network and they have a connection to each other. And in this case, we have set up our firewall rules correctly. We should have no problems with these devices contacting each other. So this was a very strange issue that I ran into, and it kind of made me have to pause my recording and troubleshoot it behind the scenes to figure out what was going on, which I did figure out. You see, for some reason, when I assigned my fourth network adapter, OpenSense, for some reason, swapped my connection for EM2 and EM3, which means that my EM2 is actually connected to the OpenSense-TOR router. So it looks like this. As you can see, my EM2 interface is connected with the correct IP address, but it is not the interface that is connected to my OpenSense-TOR router. So what I will do is just swap the IP addresses between these interfaces. So back over on DC01, I will log into the OpenSense portal. Then for the op2 interface, I will change the IP address to be 192.168.11.253 with a /24 subnet, and then we'll hit save. And we do get an error message about our IPv6 prefix. So for the IPv6 config type, I will change it to none and then save. Then I will apply the changes. Then over on op1, I will change the IPv6 config type to be none, and then I will change the IP address to be 10.1.1.1 and with a /30 subnet, and then we'll hit save and we'll apply our changes. And then I will head over to my OpenSense VM and we'll try to ping 10.1.1.2, and now we see that this works. Now back over on DC01, while I am still logged into the portal, I will change the IP address for the op2 interface to be 192.168.10.254, which is what EM2 was before. And then I will save and apply my changes. Then I'll head over to TOR-DC-01, and here I will try to ping 10.1.1.2. And this works. Now, if I try to ping 10.1.1.1, that doesn't work, which is expected because of how routers work in general. You see, a router has something called a routing table, and this routing table tells the router where it can send and receive data from. Currently, both of our OpenSense router does not have any routes configured for each other network, so let's add some. First, I will log into the web portal for OpenSense-TOR. Then under System, we will click on Gateways, then Configuration. Now, in routing, a gateway is the device or an interface that connects one network to another. It's basically like an exit point for traffic that is leaving your local network. For this case, we will be sending traffic to our OpenSense VM, and the only connection we have is with the IP address 10.1.1.1. So we'll click on Add Gateway. And here I will name it op1_GW. The interface will be op1, and the IP address will be 10.1.1.1. Then we'll click Save, and then we will apply our changes. So next we do need to add a route. So I will click on Routes and then Configuration. And here we will need to add a new route. Now the network address will be 172.20.20.0, and that's on the /24 network. And the gateway will be the UP1 gateway that we've just created. Then we'll just hit save and apply. Now, if I try to ping 172.20.20.254, we can see that it still does not work. And if I try 172.20.20.20, this doesn't work either. Because yes, our OpenSense-TOR router now has an entry in its routing table to send data, but the other OpenSense router does not have any entry in its routing table to know where it should send the reply traffic to. So let's add that. Back over on DC01, I will try to ping 10.100.100.254, and indeed it does not work. And I can try to ping 10.100.100.20 as well, but you can see that doesn't work either. So back in my OpenSense portal, we'll go to System, then Configuration, and here we'll add a gateway. This one will be up1_GW. The interface will be up1, and the IP address will be 10.1.1.2. And then we'll hit save and apply our changes. Then we'll need to add a new route. And here the network address will be 10.100.100.0, and that is on a /24 network. And the gateway will be our UP1 gateway. We'll save and apply the changes here as well. Now if I try to ping 10.1.1.2, which is the UP1 interface of the OpenSense-TOR router, it works. And if I try to ping 10.100.100.254, that works as well. Now if I try to ping 10.100.100.20, which is the IP address of our TOR-DC-01 server, that doesn't work, but that's for a different reason. That's because the firewall on TOR-DC-01 is blocking the traffic. So let's fix that. So back over on our TOR-DC. So first I will try to ping the IP address 10.1.1.1, which is the UP1 interface, and we can see that works. And then I'll try to ping 172.20.20.254. And indeed, that works as well, which means I'm able to ping the LAN network as well. And lastly, I will try to ping DC01, and we can see that works too. Then I will open up my Windows Defender firewall. And then we'll go to Inbound Rules. And here I will enable the file and printer share and echo request rule. And I will do this for both IPv4 and IPv6. Now, if I go back over to DC01 and I try to ping 10.100.100.20, we can see that now it works. So lastly, let's add our TOR-DC-01 server to our PRB investments at local domain. So we'll head back over to TOR-DC-01. So first, I will go to my network adapter settings. And here I need to configure my DNS settings. So we'll add the IP address for DC01 and DC02 as the DNS servers. And I will test just to make sure that I can ping them. And indeed I can. And then we'll go back to Server Manager and we'll click on Workgroup. And here I will add TOR-DC-01 to the PRB investments.local domain. And we can see that I get a prompt to enter my domain credentials, which is a good sign. So I will enter that in. And once that is done, success, you will see that it now welcomes me to the domain. So I will reboot. And once it is back online, I will try to sign in with my PRB admin user account that exists on the PRB investments.local domain. and we can see that that also works. So this was a great exercise if you want to learn a bit about routing and remote networks. Alright, so that is it for this video. Now let's recap what we did here. Now first, we created a point-to-point connection between our two OpenSense routers. We added an IP address of 10.1.1.1 to our OpenSense VM up1 interface and 10.1.1.2 to our OpenSense-TOR, and that was on the up1 interface as well. Now, we had to configure some firewall rules for these interfaces to be able to send data to each other. And after we're done with that, we had to add some routes. But first, we have to create a gateway, which is basically creating an exit point for our OpenSense router to know where to send traffic when the destination is on a remote network. So in OpenSense, it's just a matter of going to gateways, then configuration, and adding a gateway here. Now remember, the IP address will be the IP address of an interface it will be sending the traffic to. For example, OpenSense-VM up1 interface is connected to OpenSense-TOR up1 interface. So OpenSense VM will send traffic whose destination is on the 10.100.100.0 network to the OpenSense-TOR up1 interface. And once you have your gateway configured, you can then add your route. So ensure you add your route on both sides of the routers. If you only add it on one side, your pings and your requests will not make it back from the other side of the router. And in this video, I also ran into some troubles when OpenSense flipped my interfaces. That was unexpected, but that's really technology for you. Sometimes things don't always go your way. But that is it for this video. And in the next video, I want to add a child domain to our PRB investments.local domain, so we will do that. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.